Okay, think about every single plant you see outside. In every leaf, every stem, every single root, there's a hidden process going on. It's this constant, quiet hum of activity that literally keeps the entire plant kingdom alive and kicking. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that secret life.
So let's just dive right in with a question that might kind of flip what you think you know about plants. We all learn in school that plants are awesome because they make the oxygen we all need to breathe, right? That's photosynthesis. But is that the whole story? Do plants also need to breathe oxygen in?
Yep, the answer is a huge, definite yes. Every single living part of a plant respires. And here's the wild part. Unlike photosynthesis, which obviously needs sunlight, this process, it never stops. Ever. We're talking 24/7, day and night, light or dark.
Okay, so that brings up a pretty big question, doesn't it? If photosynthesis is how they make their food, why on earth do they need to breathe? Well, it's not about making the food. It's about unlocking the energy that's stored inside that food. You can basically think of respiration as the plant's own internal power plant. It takes that sugary fuel it made during photosynthesis, glucose, and just starts systematically breaking it down. This process unlocks the energy that fuels literally everything a plant does. Growing, repairing itself, pulling nutrients from the soil, all of it. But check this out, it's a fascinating detail. The plant can't just use that raw energy straight from the glucose, no way. It has to convert it into these tiny, manageable power packets called ATP. And you can think of ATP as the universal energy currency for pretty much all life on Earth, from the smallest bacterium to a giant redwood tree.
And the energy payoff here, it is huge. I mean, through the most efficient type of respiration, just one single molecule of glucose can be turned into a whopping 38 units of ATP. Talk about a massive return on investment for the plant, right?
But what happens if oxygen just isn't around? Like if a plant's roots get totally waterlogged after a huge rainstorm. Well, plants have a backup plan. They've actually got two main ways to get that energy, depending on the situation.
So on one side, you have aerobic respiration. This is the main event. It needs oxygen, it completely breaks down the glucose, and it gets you that massive 38 ATP payout. But on the other side, you've got anaerobic respiration. This one works without oxygen, but the breakdown of glucose is incomplete, and you only get a tiny fraction of the energy. Just 2 ATP. A huge difference.
So here's the crucial point. Aerobic respiration is like the marathon runner. It's efficient. It powers the plant through its whole life. Anaerobic, though, that's the sprinter. It's a quick fix for a short-term emergency. A plant just can't survive on it for very long. Now, this all sounds great in theory, but how can we actually see it happening? How do we prove that plants are really releasing carbon dioxide just like we do when we breathe?
Well, scientists came up with this really elegant, beautifully simple experiment that makes this whole invisible process totally visible.
Here's the setup. In flask A, you've got living, germinating seeds. They're alive and active, so they're definitely respiring. Then, in flask B, you have some beans that have been boiled. The heat has killed them, so they can't respire. That's our control group, and it's absolutely crucial for a good experiment.
So, after a few days, you test the gas that's built up in each flask. When you bubble the gas from flask A, the living seeds, through some lime water, it turns cloudy and milky. And that's the classic chemical test for carbon dioxide. The gas from the dead seeds in flask B? Nothing. No change at all. It is just undeniable proof that the living seeds are producing CO2.
All right, so now we get respiration. But how does it fit together with that other superstar plant process, photosynthesis? How do these two giant processes actually relate to each other? When you put them side by side like this, the relationship is just stunning. Photosynthesis uses carbon dioxide and water to build glucose and release oxygen. Respiration does the exact opposite. It uses oxygen and glucose to release energy, carbon dioxide, and water. They are essentially perfect mirror images of each other. This brings us to a really common myth. If trees are respiring all night long, using up oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide, is it actually dangerous to be around them? Like, should you avoid sleeping under a tree?
The answer is not at all. Not even a little bit. I mean, sure, they do release CO2, but the amount is so incredibly small and insignificant compared to the giant volume of air around you, it's nothing to worry about. You are in far more danger from the spiders that might be dropping down. So you can definitely sleep soundly under the stars.
And that leaves us with this final thought. Plants are just these masters of a perfect, sustainable cycle. They build and they break down. They store energy from the sun and then they release it right when they need it. And it's this beautiful balance, this cycle of creation and consumption, that not only powers the plant itself, but ultimately it fuels almost all life on our planet.